Welcome back to the shop, the place where we're making your Bronco, your dream Bronco. Hey, if this is your first time here, I would love to have you subscribe. I'm putting out how-to videos for the weekend mechanic, talking Bronco entertainment for the Bronco community. Today, what we're working on is installing a Hydroboost system. Now, a while ago, I installed this brake booster on my Bronco, and it did increase my stopping power, but really to utilize a brake booster, your engine needs to be like producing like 16 to 18 inch-pounds of vacuum. And with the Edelbrock ProFlow 4, I'm able to kind of monitor how much vacuum that I have with my engine. And usually at idle, I'm only at 13 inch-pounds. So definitely the brake booster is not being really utilized. It's not really, helping me that much with my stopping power. And I've been able to notice that. And so that's when I started looking at the Hydroboost system. So this is the Hydroboost kit from Tom's Off-Road. It's about $999, $1,000. I'll put a link in the description where you can get one of these. It comes with a bracket, the Hydroboost, and a new master cylinder, and you can get it with all the lines and hoses and everything that you need to hook the system up. I'm also going to be installing a power steering cooler to go in line with the system, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, at first, I was a little bit disappointed that the Hydroboost system came with this same big, ugly bracket that the vacuum booster came with. But as I started doing my research, the reason for that is if you tried to mount your Hydroboost directly to the firewall, then you're gonna have to cut a bigger hole in your firewall and you're gonna have to move some stuff. It doesn't just kind of fit directly in there. So the bracket does actually serve a purpose. So the Hydroboost system is different from a brake booster in that it doesn't rely on the engine to get power. It actually relies on the power steering pump. So the pressure from the power steering pump comes up into the Hydroboost system to assist in your braking power. So when you step on the pedal, it gives you more brake power to the master cylinder. So the pressure comes in from the power steering pump, then goes out back to your steering box. And then this is a low pressure return line for any excess fluid. Now, it's important at this point to mention that to run a Hydroboost system, you do need a power steering pump. So you need a power steering box and all that kind of stuff. So definitely factor that in if you're still running a manual steering box without a power steering pump. Now, I have the Saginaw power steering pump, and that puts out about 1,500 PSI, which would be plenty to run the Hydroboost system. The stock Ford Bronco power steering pump, that does not have enough PSI to both run your power steering pump and your Hydroboost. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about doing this upgrade. Now, another difference from a vacuum booster to the Hydroboost is, let's say you're driving down the road and you lose power, your engine shuts off. With the vacuum booster, you get one more assisted brake pump. So, one more time the vacuum booster is gonna work. But with a Hydroboost system, it has an actuator in there that will give you 3 more assisted brake pumps. Now, it may not seem like a whole lot. A lot of you with manual brakes are like, what's the big deal? But when you're used to having assisted brakes, then the switch is a big deal, especially when you're trying to figure out, why did my engine just shut off? And you're trying to stop. Like, that's gonna be a big deal. So that's a nice little safety feature to have with the Hydroboost system. Now, the other thing that I'm going to be installing is an adjustable proportioning valve. So this is going to give me the ability to adjust how much brake pressure is going to the rear brakes, because I'm still running drum brakes in the rear and disc brakes up front. The first step is measuring your brake pedal inside of the cab from the floor to make sure that you can adjust the system to match that measurement after the install. Then disconnect your brake pedal from the push rod. Now, if you've installed a vacuum booster like I have, you actually don't need to disconnect the brake pedal and the connecting rod, but you can reuse it for your Hydroboost. Next, remove the brake lines and the stock master cylinder. Then, if you have a brake booster and bracket, remove those from the firewall. Then install the new Hydroboost unit in the same spot as the brake booster bracket. Now, I put this all together before I started the video just to show it on video as a unit. And I'm gonna try to install it all together, but that might be a mistake. All right, now this back bolt back here is a bear to get in. And so what I did was I got it through, I couldn't even get a washer on it. I got it through and started in the firewall, and I've just been using my wrench just in here on the side and just tightening it down as I go, and it's taking a long time. So keep that in mind. That one is definitely the first one that you want to get in and get tight, and then tighten the rest of them. I was just looking at the instructions, and they said just to remove the pivot pin and the pivot arm to get to that bolt. So there you go. Don't do what I did. Remove that pivot arm. And now I'll hook up the push rod to the new Hydroboost bracket. This next part is kind of tricky to see, but I'm going to remove my old proportioning valve and put in the new one. So here's the old proportioning valve and the new one. You can see this little knob on the new one is how you adjust, but pretty similar. The only thing with the adjustable one is it doesn't come with a brake light warning switch that this one comes with. Does anybody else agree that brake lines are literally the worst thing to install? I'm going to install my adjustable proportioning valve. If you're curious how a proportioning valve works, I have a video on that if you want to watch it. So on the back of your power steering pump is the Saginaw power steering pump. This bottom one is the high pressure output. And then this black one here coming in the middle is the low pressure return. So it really doesn't matter what order you install all the cables in, but just knowing that the high pressure output is gonna go to the Hydroboost, and then this will be the low pressure input from the Hydroboost and the steering box. So I just ran into an issue with the fittings, and this is the fitting that Tom's sends. It's an extra couple bucks to get this. It goes from, I forget what this is, to 6AN and fits. So this one went into my steering pump just fine, but this one didn't. Now it used to look just like this one, but what I did was I actually ground down that part of the fitting, and now it goes right into my Saginaw pump. This is probably just a Saginaw pump thing, and this is the hard part with this whole kit, is there's so many fittings, so many options. You know, if you have a different proportioning valve, if you have a different master cylinder, if you have a different power steering pump, if you have a different steering box, there's so many different fittings that it's gonna be a little bit of trial and error to try to get the right fittings to the right thing. And so that's gonna be the thing that takes the longest with this kit. But this now fits. This one goes in my steering box, and now this one goes in the back of the power steering pump. All right, now I'm gonna be honest. I have two brake lines that I have no idea where they came from, and I have no idea what they're from or what they are. But what I do know and I love, and it doesn't help you guys, but this fits in my master cylinder and this fits in my master cylinder. So I think these were, brake lines for some kit. Could have been, I don't know what the kit could have been. But I have them here. But on this side, that one doesn't fit in the proportioning valve, nor does that one. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna cut those down and put, with the kit, they give you a bunch of new fittings for your proportioning valve. So I'll go ahead and cut those and flare them with the fittings. All right, so I just skipped over a lot of that, but made my brake lines, attached them to the proportioning valve, and then hooked them up over here. So it's working pretty good. What I have to do next is run my return line down to my steering box and then back around. So the return line right now comes out of my steering box, loops around, and then goes back in. So now what it's gonna do is it's gonna come out of the Hydroboost, come down. I think I'm gonna turn this little 90-degree fitting, have it point this way, have both of the hoses meet up right here, and then go to there, where there's my new power steering cooler, and that is it's reversible, so it doesn't matter which direction it goes, but one will come in, one will go out and come back around to the back of my power steering pump. So that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. It's dark in here, it's cold, so you're not gonna see a whole lot of detail, but that is how it is all plumbed right now. All right, now with everything hooked up, the first step in the bleeding process that I'm doing is bench bleeding the master cylinder. Now, obviously it's not on a bench, but what I have is just some scrap brake line going back into the bowl to get the fluid circulating through the system. And all I have to do is just push on the brake and it gets it going. Now, one of the things that I'm using in the power steering pump is the Redline Oil power steering fluid. Stuff is great, and you can get it at Tom's. All right, so that's it. The kit is all together. You can see got one line coming from the power steering pump, coming up, going to this side of the Hydroboost, and then this line coming out and going down to my steering box. And then this line, the return, coming out, meeting up at a Y with the return out of my steering box, and then coming over to my power cooler, power steering pump cooler, and then back and to the return line on the power steering pump. All right, so that's it. The Hydroboost is installed. I got everything plumbed up, I think, correctly. I pulled it out of the shop and it did stop. So now I'm gonna take it for a little test drive and see how things go. Right off the bat, there's probably like 1/4 to 1/2 inch of play in the pedal, which you can actually adjust out when you put the master cylinder on to the Hydroboost. So like there's a threaded rod that goes into the master cylinder, and what you want to do is make it so that it's like maybe not even 1/4 of an inch, maybe that's what my problem is, just a little bit from touching the master cylinder. You want the master cylinder to go on all the way, and you don't want it engaged when you just put the master cylinder on. But if you do feel a gap in your pedal, most likely that is because that rod comes out and has a gap before it actually hits the master cylinder. So that might be that play that I'm feeling. But it's interesting, like already the pedal is softer, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's softer. Right off the bat, just pulling it around, like it definitely feels a lot different. Now my last brake pedal was pretty hard, which I don't know, I just got used to it, so like that's what I was used to. But it was like hard to press, and you had to push on it hard to get the Bronco to stop. The interesting thing about this is it's very soft to press, and it doesn't take a lot of force to actually stop. Now the thing that I need to do next, that I will do next, but I'm not going to put it on video, is I'm actually going to go and kind of test the brakes and try to get them to lock up without hitting a tree. And like I'm actually going to just, when they lock up, look at what brake locked up, front or back. And when I figure out which one locked up, I'm gonna adjust the proportioning valve the opposite direction. So if my rear brakes are locking up first, I'm gonna adjust it so that the bias goes more towards the front brakes. Because what you want is you want your brakes to stop all together. You know, if your rear brakes lock up, then you're losing traction and you're not stopping as well. If your front brakes lock up, you could, you know, spin out of control and you're losing traction as well. So what you really want is all 4 brakes to lock up at the same time, and so that's what I'm going to do next. But just driving it around, I mean, it like it is a lot better, and it doesn't take a whole lot of force to stop, and it really does feel, it feels like a modern car, which is funny. I mean, that's the point, right? To have brakes that actually work and feel like a modern car. What is weird, you probably can't hear it on video, but like sitting here at a stoplight, I can hear my Hydroboost, or I can hear my power steering pump, which I could hear it before when I would turn. It kind of whined a little bit, which is why I thought, oh, I should put the cooler on there. But it's weird sitting here not turning the wheel, and I can actually hear the power steering pump assisting my brakes. So that's an interesting part that I'm not really sure, you know, I guess I'll get used to it. All in all, I'm really happy with the system. I mean, it is a soft, easy pedal to push. And I feel like it feels like I have really good brakes, which is pretty amazing now to have, you know. And with the Hydroboost combined with the big brake kit from Tom's, I just feel like it's a really good combo. I've got really strong brakes now, and yeah, I'm really happy with it, just on this little test drive that I've been doing. And yeah, we'll see how things go, but that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. We'll see you next time.